Welcome, listeners, to another episode of Pateo Radio. The guest of tonight is expert in the field of the transcendental number of pi. We'll talk a lot about that number, of course. But first I would like to introduce my guest. My guest is Marty Leeds, all the way from the state of New York in the United States. Marty, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Marty, could you please introduce yourself to the listeners? Share a little bit of your background if you want.
Sure, yeah. Name's Marty Leeds. I have a website, www.martyleeds33.com. I've got 2 books out right now, one called Pi, the Great Work, and then another called Pi in the English Alphabet, Volume 1. And I'm actually working on Volume 2 right now, and I'm hoping that'll be out in the next, hopefully the beginning of next year. And so the first book is actually about, it's basically about this numerological principle that I use on a lot of modern mathematical ideas like phi and pi and things like the Pythagorean tetractys, and it's called a decimal parity or digital root. And then the second book I have is basically breaking down the English alphabet, finding basically the correlations to numbers to letters. And so I basically have this achromatic cipher or cryptogram basically for the English alphabet. And what it does is allows us to, basically look at the mystical properties of our language and kind of dive into words itself and see how there's interconnectivity and connectivity through numbers and language and the varied words we speak. So yeah, that's basically as far as professionally, I'm right now I'm trying to be an author. And so that's what I'm going towards right now. Otherwise, I'm basically a designer. And I've just been kind of an autodidact, kind of learn things, by myself, basically self-taught. So yeah, that's basically me in a nutshell anyway.
Okay, great. Yeah, you were so kind to send me both books you just mentioned. And, it was a delight to read them. You also have the same thing. What I really like is to have a lot of pictures and diagrams and show it very visually instead of just wordings. And, it was absolutely a treat to read the things. And, of course I know a lot about the subject already, but there were a number of things I didn't know yet. So I was really enthusiastic. Could we first talk about how we can convert letters into ciphers, because there are many different systems for that. I myself use the Pythagorean numerology, where you convert A, B, C, D until I, until 1, until 9, and then it continues. R is then 1 again. J is then 1 again, and so on. But you use you call it English gematria, but what I've understood from gematria is that it's up till 10, 1 up till 9, and then it goes to 10, and then 20, 30, until 80 or 90 sometimes, and then up to 100 and so on. But yours is a little bit different. So could you please explain to the listeners who might not know everything about numerology, the differences between those methods and why you chose your own, and what is so special about it?
Well, yeah, gematria is, basically this art of assigning numbers to letters. And, a lot of these other cultures, use this. This is, when they read these spiritual texts, they read it numerologically. So it was, this epic allegorical poetry that they read. Also, they were looking at the symbol, they were looking at the number behind it, and this sort of thing. When I used, when I was getting into this and really focusing on it, and I was like using a lot of these ciphers that I'd seen other people, there was like the one that goes just 1 through 26. There's one that, like you said, it goes 1 through 9, starts over. And I would try to, work with this a little bit, and it just really didn't make any sense to me. It's just really kind of, there wasn't really any like solid foundation there. And so basically, I was working off pi, and so I knew that this number was very important. It's one of the most elusive numbers in mathematics, and so I knew that this was kind of like this mysterious number that seemed to lie behind everything. And so when I actually use a cipher, I go 1 through 7, and then I walk back down. I'll go into that in just a second. But the reason I used only 7 is because the original Hebrew Bible was called a Septuagint, and septa means 7. And so I really wanted to focus on that. And, the Bible I have is this, it's a Masonic edition. It's from the early 30s, and it's got a compass and a square. This is the Freemasonic symbol, and there's that G in the center. Well, this references squaring the circle. And this is what the Great Pyramid of Giza does. And so basically, in order and what squaring the circle does is it helps you find the radius of the Earth and the Moon very easily. And all you have to do is multiply 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5 times 6 times 7. And you can get this number 5,040. So it's a very, very simple way to measure the cosmos. And it really says that our cosmos is actually created much more simply than we tend to, I think we tend to over-intellectualize these things, or at least modern science does. I think the simpler you make it, the closer you are to the truth. And so I was actually working with 1 through 9, and I wasn't getting anywhere, and the ciphers I had seen wasn't, and so I actually went to the 7 because it seemed to make sense. And so basically what I did is I separated the alphabet A through M and N through Z. There's 26 letters of the alphabet, and so this actually separates it into 13 and 13. And as soon as I did that, it just felt like there was something right about it, because 13 has always been this very kind of like, you have the idea of the psychological idea of the triskaidekaphobia, where you should have this fear of the number 13. And so when I did this, it was like, okay, there's something right about that. And then, of course, you have the 12 disciples around Jesus. You have the 12 ages of the zodiac around yourself, being 13 both times. And so basically what I did is separate A through M and N through Z, and this is kind of the yin-yang. Shiva Shakti, Adam and Eve, left, right. And then I actually put this on my hands. And so basically what I did is I said, A is my thumb, and then you have the 12 sections of the phalanges of your hands. And this is B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M. And then basically we're going to go to our other hand. And this is N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y. And then your thumb becomes that Z. And so what I did is I actually just walked up the 6 days of creation, resting on that Sabbath, or that 7, and this is that septagon. This is that, of course, the 7 is one of the most holy numbers of all time. 7 days of creation, 7 chakras, 7 colors of the rainbow, etc. And so what I did is A is 1, B is 2, C is 3, D is 4, E is 5, F is 6, and then G is 7. And then I just walk back down. H is 6, I is 5, J is 4, K is 3, L is 2, and M is 1. And so this gives you, on your left hand, at A through M, basically as if you were walking up a ladder and then walking down. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the Sabbath, 7, being G, and then walk back down, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And because your hand is literally symmetrical, it's a mirror of your other hand, you can literally just take these numbers and throw them right onto that other side of the alphabet. So you have A through M being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then N through Z being the exact same thing. Now, this place where we stop is that G, and that's what's inside the Freemasonic symbol. And so it's basically saying square the circle, which is all you have to do is add or multiply 1 through 7, and you get the radius of the Earth and the Moon. And then it's also talking about the gematria for our English alphabet, and that's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then basically you're using that septenary system. And so yeah, that's basically the cipher, and why I kind of derived that. And then I started looking at things like heaven and earth. Very basic concepts at first. So heaven in this cipher is H is 6, E is 5, A is 1, V is 5, E is 5, and N is 1. This equals 23. And then earth is E is 5, A is 1, R is 5, T is 7, and H is 6, and this equals 24. So the combination of heaven and earth is 47. And if you actually look, the original Freemasonic compass is open to 47 degrees. And so I knew right away that that seemed to be correct anyway. What's more is the compass and the square are referencing, it's the idea of heaven and earth. You have one going up, one going down, as above, so below, on earth as it is in heaven. And in the sacred geometry is actually called a circle as a 3, and then they call the square as a 4. And so 3 plus 4 is 7 once again. And so they have that compass and that square. 3 in this cipher, T is 7, H is 6, R is 5, E is 5, E is 5. This equals 28. And then 4 equals, F is 6, O is 2, U is 6, and R is 5, and this equals 19. So the 3 and 4, 28 plus 19 equals 47 as well. So direct correlation between the numbers, the letters, the symbol, and it just kind of all worked out. And so, that's basically how I derived the cipher. So.
Yeah, so there's a lot of maybe that's the right word anyway, supporting your your invention, because you're the one who came up with this idea, Marty, to use G as 7 and then go down to N1 again. Or
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, or did you see it somewhere else? Because I tried to find references on internet, but I could not find any one reference to this. So, are you the inventor of this system?
No, I don't. I can't take credit for it at all. I really can't. And I kind of stress that. And to me, this was known by our ancestors. And just me reading like alchemy and kind of looking into Freemasonry and stuff like that, it seems like this is a body of knowledge. And it's a very powerful body of knowledge. And just like all information throughout history, the people in power, they don't want this information to get out to the masses. And so this is why and at least as far as I'm concerned, why we have these secret societies, because they had to go underground and they had to keep this knowledge. And I think that originally this is what the Freemasons were. I think this is, the Knights Templar in one way, any of these secret societies really. So, no, I can't take credit for it. I basically feel like an archaeologist. I kind of, I was looking for something. I wanted an answer for things. And, to me, this was an answer. I basically say it in every interview. I didn't believe in God before. I did not believe in God. But I always had the scientific mind, and I was always kind of like, well, there's no way to prove that God exists. And so therefore there can't be a God. And for me, this was proof. It's the strongest statement I can make about this information, because it's completely changed my life. It's completely changed my perception and my consciousness, how I look at the world. And so, to me, this is definitely not my invention. I believe our ancestors absolutely know about this.
Yeah, I'm certain too, but, as I said before, I'm very familiar with the Pythagorean, numerology, and I've had a couple of guests before you in this radio talk show, talking a lot about it, and they've done an enormous amount of work with that system, and me too. On countless number of words I transferred into numbers and calculated the value. But you have very remarkable results from this system based on the 7 on the G and then going back again. For instance, if you look at the word God, G-O-D, you come up with 13. So it's 13 again. So that's a lot of evidence, plus the ones you just gave before when you write down the word 3 or 4 and you bring that back and combine them. So, for me, I'm still a little bit struggling how I have to see those two systems, because they are, excluding each other. But I'm getting more and more interested in yours. And what I also like is the fact that there are 26 letters in the alphabet, and that perfectly fits with the Pythagorean approach. Yeah, we end up with the Z at position number 8. And not at 9, so there seems to be a space missing there, which is a little bit, doesn't feel in balance, so to say. So
and this, with this cipher, to me, it was like it was complete in and of itself. It was perfectly symmetrical. It worked. I mean, and you have this idea where, of course, the entire universe, according to Genesis, is created in 7 days. And so, I make the argument that it's like if the entire universe can be created in 7 days, then, the English alphabet should follow that as well. And then, of course, all vibratory phenomena tend to completion in 7 stages. So we have light, sound, etc. The chakras, those wheels in our endocrine system. So, when we speak, that's, we speak the 7 notes of the major scale. So, to me, it should follow that 7, It made a lot of sense. And then I actually have a video called The Holy Number 7, that you can check out, and I have YouTube at martyleeds33.com. And I actually put this on the chromatic music scale, and it fits perfectly. And so basically the first book, I go over the cipher using your hands, and then the second book, I re-explain the cipher, but I use the chromatic music scale, and it works both ways. And so to me, it really says, I know this is kind of a lofty statement, but to me, this is absolutely the gematria for our English alphabet. This is the cipher. It's just because, and then I actually went and seen, tried to find all the things I could do with it. So I went to, I just did a video on the tarot deck yesterday, that I'm uploading right now. So I did the tarot deck, I did chess, I did things like dice, I did the Holy Name of Jesus, I did Hermes Trismegistus, I did Horus. I just went the solar system. I went anywhere I could, and just to see how this thing would work. And it just seemed to work every single time and beautifully, really, just so much so that it's really, like I said, it's changed my consciousness. I can't look at a pair of dice anymore without being like, wow, there's so much in there. And the most interesting thing is most of the stuff that I looked into, we don't know where it came from. Like, we don't know where chess came from. We don't know where dice came from. We don't know if Jesus was a real man, or if this was, the result of imaginative writers of the past who encoded this, which I'm kind of more apt to believe. But it just seems to work everywhere. So to me, it's just very astounding.
Yeah, I fully agree. For the listeners to this radio broadcast, please go to Marty's YouTube channel. It's also the same, Marty Leeds 33. And you find a number of very fascinating videos because you really present them in a clear way. You have a big white sheet where you already put a lot of things on, and then you make it very easy to follow you. And the connections you make are astonishing. I watched one of the recent ones where you put the number pi created from you started with a 0 and then you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on to the right. All the way to 14 or 15 maybe, I'm not sure. And then you do the opposite on the other side, and then you end up with pi and all the relations above and below. So maybe you can try to explain that for the radio. It's much more difficult than, of course, for YouTube. But could you share what you've done there and how pi is in there? Because I think it's very fascinating.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, first off, basically what I'm trying to do is my impetus is trying to teach this. I'm doing my best to try to lay this out in a very clear and concise, straightforward manner, so as many people can get it as possible. And I also say that, I make it very clear that you do not have to buy my books. You do not have to buy my books. I'd like you to, don't get me wrong, but I want to make this information available to as many people as possible. And so if you don't have money or whatever, you can go check out the website or the videos and the web series, and you can take this information and use it on your own, because I do not own this. No one owns numbers, no one owns letters, this is not my intellectual property. And it's no one's intellectual property. And so I want to make that clear. So, please go there and take a look at it and do what you will with it. With the cipher, when you put this on your left hand and right hand, basically, once again, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, ending on that G, and then 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you pull out the prime numbers, which is 2, 3, 5, 7, and then 5, 3, 2, this will add up to 27. And so you'll have 27 on your A through M on your left hand, and then 27 prime numbers, N through Z on your right hand. There's 27 bones in the human hand, and so those prime numbers refer directly to the bones in the human hand. What's more is that this leaves you 1, 4, 6 and 6, 4, 1. And so basically what you can do is actually draw a Jewish menorah connecting these non-prime numbers. So 6 and 6, 4 and 4, and then 1 and 1. And basically when you draw this Jewish menorah, this leads right to the 7. And of course we're using a 7-branch menorah. So once again, there's that prominence of the 7 in the septenary system. 6 plus 6 is 12. 4 plus 4 is 8, and 1 plus 1 is 2. And 12 plus 8 plus 2 is 22. And 22 leads you right to that 7, right? That's that central pillar. And 22 divided by 7 is pi. And so you have 22 divided by 7 on your left hand, and you can do the exact same thing on your right hand. And so now you have a pi in your left hand and a pi in your right hand. And if you bring those together, what this will give you is one of the symbolic it's the tetragrammaton is basically what it is, and it's this Hebraic. Well, it's used by alchemists, it's used by Christians as well, but it's this holy name of God. And tetragramma, of course, is grammar, and so you're talking about language. It's directly referring to language. So you have that pi begotten by 7 on your left hand, and pi begotten by 7 on your right hand, and you bring those together in the act of prayer, if you will. And this is that holy name of God. The holy name of God in the Hebrew cipher, in their gematria, it's He, Vav, He, Yad, and this gives you the numbers 5, 6, 5, 10, and this actually equals 26. So the 26 letters of our alphabet directly referring to that Hebraic tetragrammaton, that holy name of God being 26. So direct correlation once again. What's even more is that you have the original Hebrew alphabet had 22 characters or 22 letters, and then they had a thing called 5 finals. So you have the difference between 22 and 27. And this is, once again, this is the non-primes and the primes inner alphabet. So on that left hand, you have A through M, 27, 2, 3, 5, 7, 5, 3, 2 equaling 27. And then you have 1, 4, 6 and 6, 4, 1 equaling 22. So 22 and 27. And this is direct reference to the Hebrew alphabet. So, that's just like one thing that this cipher does, is encodes this holy name of God. And it seems very important. What's really interesting, and I actually just go over this in the Tarot deck, and I'm going over it I think I go over it in volume 1, as well. But this God idea the God is always in the center, right? And, it's like you want to center yourself, you want to center your chi, you want to find the center of that circle to find you. Center in this cipher equals 26. And of course, if you look at our galaxy, what's in the center of our galaxy? It's a black hole. This equals 26. Scorpio, which is the constellation that points to the center of our galaxy, equals 26. Our galaxy is a Taurus. A Taurus is not in the bull, and the constellation is in Taurus. This equals 26. And so this prominent of the 26 is, we see this in the Tetragrammaton, we see it in our English alphabet, and now it's literally all that number is pointing to the center of our galaxy. And what's in the center of our galaxy but that God principle? That's our creation, if you will. This is all what this cipher kind of unveils. And I think to me, it's very important to get this stuff out, because it really gives us a whole idea of what the idea of God is. It's completely, I have a whole new definition of it now. It's not some bearded man in the sky that we have to pray to, or, it's this Jesus character or anything like that. It's God is everywhere, and this is the omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresence of God. And what I think this cipher does is confirm this. At least for me, it does. So.
Yeah, and you also say that the language to speak to this God, or at least understand the continuous creation of this God, is the ciphers and their meaning. So, I think it's very fascinating, Marty. Before we get a lot of responses from the chat, of course you mean 22 divided by 7 is a very good approximation of pi, and of course not exactly the value of pi, but I think everybody knows that.
Yes.
Yeah. Before people might say that we did something wrong.
If I may say, because pi is this infinite transcendental number, exactly. We can't. The idea of pi, the idea of pi is that we can't see its tail. And I always found this very, very interesting, because it's like we can keep calculating the digits and keep calculating billions and zillions and zillions of numbers. But to me, there is a God, and God is literally creating those numbers. Like pi it's being created as we speak. It's like those end digits are being created as we speak. And so it's really a representation of the creation of our universe. And this speaks to, I read about this in the first book, or the volume 1, is this, it's called Kurt Gödel's incompleteness theorem, or incommensurability theorem. I think it's one of the two. But it's basically this philosophical idea that if you want to measure a circle, so let's say we're going to find that diameter, you get that diameter to find the circumference of pi. Well, in order to measure that circle, that means we have to be inside of another larger circle. And so if we want to walk out and measure that larger circle that's encapsulating us, that means there automatically has to be another circle. So we want to go out and measure that other one. There automatically has to be another circle. And what this circle, to me, number one, the sacred geometers, heaven was a 3 as a circle. And of course, pi starts as 3.14 exactly. So there's that 3, the prominence of the 3. And then of course we have the Holy Trinity in Shiva, Brahman, and Vishnu, Hinduism, and then the Father and Son, and the Holy Spirit, of course. And so this idea of approximating pi to like 3.142 and not getting this exact number, well, if you're talking about the construction of our universe, really it's like that approximation is so dang close to this God principle to me. And it's like, and we have to approximate that number because of its infinite nature. And so all mathematics do. So it's really not that much of a stretch to me that we have to approximate it in our language as well,
No, exactly. Yeah. So you are totally taken away by pi and the key you find in it to discover the underlying structure of the universe and even language and everything we've created.
Well, yeah, and let me say this: kind of the first little revelation I ever had on pi was that basically it's a representation of our the creation of our universe. So it's basically like all the potential of the universe was once encased inside this circle or this egg kind of thing, and one day it cracked. But what was inside that egg was actually the numbers 0 through 9, or we can look at it as 1 through 9. And then that 0 was actually the egg, if you will. And so this actually gives us the 10 numbers and this is the decimal system. This gives us the 10 numbers of creation. 0 being 1, 1 being 2, up to 9 being the 10 numbers. And so it's almost like we exist in decimal places. And so when pi cracked and these numbers came out, if you notice, we're only using 1 through 7. So this leaves 8 and 9, right? So this seems like, oh, well, that's kind of a problem because you're just kind of ditching out those numbers. But if you know numerology at all, and I know you know this very well, you can cast out a 9. And so that 9, we can always just cast it out. We don't even need it. And that just leaves the 8. And what is that 8? Well, that 8 is just an upright infinity sign. So it's really talking about the infinite nature of pi. And what's even more is pi in this cipher is P is 3 and I is 5. And this equals 8. And so once again, this is, so now we went 1 through 7, and then the next number we have is 8, and that references pi. And then we can just cast out that 9. And so that literally leaves us that 1 through 7 once again. And so that was kind of the philosophy behind the whole thing anyway.
Exactly. And also when you add up the ciphers 1 up to 7, I think you get 28, if I'm correct. And
yes.
That also, it's also very meaningful, because there are a lot of things that result in 28. So, and 28 is again 1 if we add up the 2 and the 8. So it's also a unity.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and then that 28. So so once again we're using that septenary system. So 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 equals 28. And this is referencing your hands once again. And this is literally, if you will, the hands of God. So you've got those 14 phalanges, for the sections of your hand, and you've got them on the other hand. So that's 28. We actually see this in Sanskrit as well, where it's either, we're referencing the bones in our hand, or we're referencing our hands, either way, whether it's the phalanges or the bones. In Sanskrit, they had 54 characters. And then it had a Shiva and Shakti, and this is the first alphabet we have in history. And so we have 54 characters. It's got an Adam and Eve, yin yang, Shiva, Shakti quality. Well, 54 times 2 is 108. Well, if you have 27 bones in your left hand and 27 bones in your right hand, that's 54. So when a man and a woman or Shiva and Shakti come together, that holding hands, if you will, that's 108. And so that first language that we know of it seems to be built off the human hands. Or whether it's built or not, we don't know. I'm tending to believe that this is almost kind of given to us, because we don't really know where language came from, but that's a big question. I don't take a firm stance on that at all. But I find it very interesting though that it seems like these languages are dealing with your hands. So.
Yeah, I think for most people it's evident that our counting system is coming from our hands. Digit is also referring to the finger a little bit. In some languages they are the same word. So I think it's logical that also our letter system has to be originated from our hands. So I think it makes sense. What most people may be not knowing, listening to this radio broadcast, is that each finger has 3 parts, but the thumb only has 2. Of course, you look at it, you can see it, but I was not aware of it until I saw your book, Marty. So then you have 4 fingers times 3, and then the thumb times 2, then end up 14 at each hand. Just like to add that for maybe people who were not able to keep up with your speed.
Oh yeah, and it's really interesting too that we use our hands every day for everything, writing and making love and making dinner and everything, and yet we hardly ever look down at our hands and count the sections of our hands.
It's true, yeah.
And and it's like we use them every single day, and so when this ended up working out, it was just like it was really just. I have no other word for it but magical, because it really connected the stars in our sky, the movement of our sun and the planets, and and then the human vessel itself, and that's time, space, astronomy, astrology, the words we speak, the mathematics that we work with are all interconnected. And the fact that you can see this on your hands is just, to me, just remarkable. I mean, for instance, in evolutionary theory, of course, our thumbs is what is kind of like gave us like a higher consciousness, if you will, because then we were able to grab stuff, if you will, and we were able to move and manipulate the material world. Let's just put our thumbs down a second and look at those 12 sections on your hands now. So you have the 4 fingers, and there's 3 sections on each finger, so that gives you 12. Well, there's 12 hours a day and 12 hours a night. And so literally the symmetrical or mirror or the black and white, the Adam and Eve, those 12 hours a day and 12 hours a night are on your hands, straight up. And so that's, to me, that's very, like I said, magical. I don't have any other word for it. And I'm at a loss as to how this could have been constructed, or, the alphabet and on your hands and then referencing the time, how this could have been constructed by human beings. It just seems like it couldn't be. It's too big. It encodes too many things. So, let me say this. I'm writing about this in volume 2, and this is extremely interesting to me. We're going to look at those 4 fingers again on one hand. So you have 12 sections of those 4 fingers, right? There's the 4 alchemical elements, right? There's earth, air, water, and fire. Okay, and this actually this is the substantiation of matter, and this is the same thing as we have. What is it? Water, liquid, solid, and plasma, right? Did I say that right? Liquid, solid, gas, and plasma. Excuse me. The same thing, exactly the same thing. Basically, just different words to explain it. If you do the numerical equivalents for earth, air, water, and fire, right? Earth is 24, air is 15. Is that 15? Air is 11. Excuse me. Water is 22, and fire is 21. If you add those 4 alchemical elements up, it equals 78. Okay. So earth, air, water, and fire together, you do the numerical equivalents for it. The numerology of it equals 78. So you have 4 alchemical elements equaling 78. Look at your hands. There's 12 sections. All you have to do is add 1 through 12. So 1 plus 2 plus 3, etc. to 12, and this equals 78. So the substantiation of matter, that earth, air, water, and fire that created you, is on your 4 fingers. And that's earth, air, water, and fire. That's right on your 4 fingers. Your 4 fingers are created by the sequence of 5. This is this balancing point. It's called 1.618. It's this ratio. Once again, this is approximated. But if you do the numerical equivalents of 1.618, 1 is 8, point is 18, 6 is 14, 1 is 8, and then 8 is, what is 8? Is 30. You add this up, it's 78. So the 4 alchemical elements that create your fingers, your human body, and 5, which create you as well, are on your fingers. The numerology, the actual ratio itself, and it's all there. It's all on your hands. And so, once again, I don't have any other word for this but magical. And like I said, I don't look at my hands in the same way anymore, So.
No, exactly. It is absolutely magical, and people who still think it's coincidental, well, after they've read one of your books, I don't think they can think of coincidence anymore. But when they've seen both books, and you're working on a 3rd one as well, there is no such thing as coincidence. There must be an underlying explanation that everything fits so perfectly together, and that we did not choose all those words by random. It's that probably there is something, maybe subconscious, I don't know, or how it was created, but it's can't be coincidence that all these things you calculated do make sense and that they come up with the same outcome. In some of your videos, you also say as above, so below. That's also what I like to use a lot. And you explain above we have the ciphers, and below we find the words. So when 2 words have the same cipher outcome, then it means that they above have the same kind of meaning. Is that a correct interpretation, Marty?
Excuse me. The thing I like about as above, so below, is that to me this is like a fundamental scientific, and I want to stress this, scientific philosophy of who we are. And this idea that we have multiple ways of looking at this idea, this as above, so below, on earth as is in heaven, the microcosm reflects the macrocosm, man is made in the image of God, etc. We have multiple ways of looking at this mathematically. We can look at fractals. right? So you take the Mandelbrot set, if you will. You go in, you peer in, and you go right back to that mathematical object. We can look at a torus. A torus is the same thing. Our universe, once again, is a torus, right? Or I should say our galaxy. I'm guessing our universe is the spherical shape, but they're kind of fractals. A torus, you go in, you go through that vortex. So you're going in, and what do? You end up coming out. So the in and the out, the as above, so below. And then we have the Mobius strip, and this is the same thing. It's basically a length. You take a length of paper, if you will, you twist it, and you fuse the end, and it's basically got one side and one edge. So you can walk along it, and you can go out and out and out, and then next thing you know, you're going in. And it's the same piece of paper. It's the same one, like, singular, not dimension, but plane, if you will. And so this is multiple ways that we can prove it, in my opinion, mathematically, that this ancient idea of as above, so below is absolutely true. And what this says to me is that, basically astrology is absolutely a legitimate science, because basically what they were doing is following these cycles above, the cycles of the stars, the sun, the moon, the planets. And basically why they were doing that is because following what was up in the heavens was following what was inside of you, and this is literally. And so this is so profound to me. And we see this concept, this philosophy, time and time and time again. Our ancestors kept telling us this. They gave it to us in symbols and philosophies and, stories and allegories and all these things. And I, pursuing this and this stuff making sense, it's like, okay, I wanted to go out and say, hey, maybe we should focus on this, and at this point, I'm fairly convinced that this is absolutely true. And so this is kind of why I'm trying to present this material, because it gives us a whole different idea of what the world that we're living in is and what those stars above mean, So
exactly,
those stars above are a reflection of the neurons in your head, or, that sort of thing. So.
Yeah, I fully agree, Marty. When we look at our hand, we see the 12 parts of the fingers, but there's are of course also the 4 seasons and the 3 zodiac signs within each season. So it's also representing the world above, the zodiac and how we travel through that zodiac period in the solar year. So that's really fascinating. The words as above, so below originate from Hermes Trismegistus, if I'm correct. And you also talk about the Hermetic seal in your book, your second book, Pi and the English Alphabet. Can you tell me how did you came up with that Hermetic seal? Because I've studied the work of Hermes also very much, but this was new to me. So where did you find it? Because it's very very revealing.
It might be kind of difficult to explain on the air, but basically when you break down, there's this numerological principle that I wrote about in the first book, and I actually highlight this thing that I'm going to talk about in both books because I feel like it's so important. And this has been independently confirmed by other people. Other people have found this. Basically, we have a sequence of 5, right? It's 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. It's this constant. It's a self-referential mathematical sequence. So basically, it doesn't need anything outside its own mathematical, its own growth to keep growing. And so self-referential. And this is what all of nature is. But when you do this, you go, 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, and then you get to 13. And so this is where this mathematical principle comes in. This is we see this in Marco Rodin's math. We see this in, the Theosophists use this. The Kabbalistic people use this. Basically, you add 1 plus 3 is 4. You're going to walk up to 21. 2 plus 1 is 3. We're going to walk up to 34. 3 plus 4 is 7. So it's always breaking it down to any number between 1 through 9. And I find this extremely important. So when you do this, you can actually get 24 numbers of the sequence of 5. And the first 24 numbers, this sequence will repeat ad infinitum, basically. The only difference is the first number is 0, and every sequence after that 0 becomes 9. Because, of course, using Kabbalistic reduction or this Theosophical addition, digital root, different names for all this, you can't get to 0. So this first sequence adds up to 108. And now this number 108 is seen all over. Once again, it's in the Sanskrit alphabet. Those two, the man and woman, come together in the bones of their hands. In Islam, it's used to refer to God. In the Chinese and the Buddhists, the Taoists, they use a 108 bead mala, and there's like 108 forms of dance in like the Indian tradition. It's just you see it again and again and again. You can actually take this and wrap it around a circle. And here, let me open this up just to make sure I'm saying this right. So when you do this, what you can do is actually you'll have the numbers of a trinity. So you'll have that 0, you'll go 3 numbers, and then it'll be a 3. You'll go another 3 numbers, and then it'll be a 3. You go another 3 numbers, and it'll be a 9. This is divisible by 3. Go another 3 at 6, once again, divisible by 3. Another 3 at 6, divisible by 3, and then you're back to that 0. If you break down the numbers between those numbers of the trinity, I know this is kind of hard to explain over the air, but I have a video on this you can look at. What you do is you get these numbers, this 1, 4, 2, 8, 5, 7, 1. And this is the numbers that you get, this infinite sequence of numbers that you will get when you divide 360 degrees in a circle by 7. And there's that 7 again. And you'll get 51.428571, 428571, 428571, infinity, infinity, infinity. If you connect all these numbers, this will literally give you the symbol for the Hermetic seal. And the Hermetic seal is, of course, hermetically sealed just means you're taking two opposites and you're bringing them together so tight that you can't take them apart. And this is the process of alchemy. This is absolutely the process of alchemy. It's the alchemical marriage. It's merging, or the alchemical wedding, same thing. Merging the left and the right. Merging the halves. Merging the sun and the moon. Merging the man within and the woman within, or whatever, vice versa. So this is, to me, this is as above, so below. Merging the as above and so below and realizing that they're one. And so this Hermetic seal, at least that's what it meant to me. When I saw that, instantly I was like, that is the Hermetic seal. And it actually, I know, like I said, it's hard to explain this over the air, but it literally creates this sort of, this symbol of a Hermetic seal. To me, it's very interesting. What's even more important about that 1428571 is this is actually called the Enneagram. And this is actually a symbol for enlightenment. So basically, it's connecting these numbers in a different way to give you a different symbol, but saying the same thing, and that's enlightenment. And that's to me, that's what it said anyway. So
exactly, yeah.
And I go over this in both books, and I have a video on it, so you can take a look at it. But I think it's very, very important. So.
Yeah, it's very fascinating this because in the previous show I had Randy Powell. He's now taking over the work from Marco Rodin. And in his videos, Rodin also talks about the relation between, the symbol he uses, you can call it the square symbol of infinity, but then in the shape 1, 2, 4, 8, 7, 5, and then back to 1 again. Randy calls it the Akba kingdom, but there are many names for it. But I've also tried to find out the relation between that symbol and the Enneagram, and it's beautiful there in this. You could call it the Fibonacci numbers. So it was really fascinating to see how those two things come together if we just add that seal of the Hermetic seal into this diagram. So it's great stuff.
And I think Marco's work was known in the past too. I think just like all of us, I think we're just rediscovering this stuff. I don't think any of us are really doing it. I think this has always been known. With the Egyptian Eye of Horus, we had a doubling and halving, if you will, and we get the same numbers as as Marco's work. And I find Marco's work, I was very influenced by it. I mean, I think it's just brilliant. And I really like Randy's a great guy. We actually see Marco's work in the Tetractys as well. So, I highlight this in the first book, but if you just take those the Tetractys is just basically the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and it gives you these 10 dots. If you take, and you just put the dot, or put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 around the Tetractys with that, 0 being the center, this will actually give you, and connecting the numbers like Marco's work does, will actually give you the same symbol. But instead of where Marco's doesn't hit that center, the Tetractys, it hits the center. And what's more important about the Tetractys is, once again, look at your fingers. You have 3 sections and 2 sections. Well, the Tetractys multiplies by 2 and 3. And so once again, it seems to be referencing your fingers. And you can't really go into that here because I know we're kind of getting close to our time. But, so it seems like all of these things that we seem to be rediscovering were absolutely known by people in the past. And that they actually, they heralded this stuff as works of God. And let me read this here quick. I found, when I read this, I just couldn't believe it. This is from it's the Pythagorean prayer. And it's basically a prayer to the Tetractys. And the Tetractys was like the cornerstone of the Pythagorean schools. It says, "Bless this divine number, thou who generated gods and men. O holy, holy Tetractys, thou that containest the root and source of the eternal flowing creation. For the divine number begins with the profound, pure unity until it comes to the holy fourth, and it begets the mother of all, the all-comprising, all-bounding, the firstborn, the never-swerving, the never-tiring, holy 10, the key holder of all." They had a prayer to mathematics. Wow. That seems, to religious people now, that seems like that's crazy, because mathematics is, of course, so, it's objective, and religion is so subjective, but not. I don't see it that way at all. I think by understanding mathematics and the objectivity of mathematics, number one, by doing things numerologically, it kind of blurs the lines of objectivity and subjectivity. And it also blurs the lines of religious subjectivity and objectivity. To me, there's a natural religion in everything, and you can understand it through numbers. And this is kind of the process that I feel like I went through. And me really saying that, yes, I believe in God now. And it wasn't, I didn't go to a preacher, priest. I didn't go to church. I didn't pray, traditionally pray. I didn't classically meditate. But literally numbers led me there. And so I think it says a lot. And then, of course, if you look at the Greeks, you look at the Egyptians, you look at the Hindus, it's all numbers. They're really dealing. That's really the core. And it is the foundation of, it seems to be the foundation of our speech. So.
Yeah, I fully agree here, Marty. I'm also fascinated by numbers. A lot of people think, they cannot really follow the work I'm doing. I give a lot of lectures. I think you do the same. And sometimes I think, maybe I should come down to them. But it's not pure. And the beauty of numbers, it's very pure. You cannot fool around with it. It has a value, and you can do things with its value, but the outcome is crystal clear to everyone. So when there is coincidence, when there is, the same outcomes, then there has to be an explanation for that. And once you understand that road, then you're hooked to it. You're addicted, like you are, and like I am too. And there's no way back, unfortunately, or fortunately, perhaps.
Very fortunately.
Very.
And I want, I like to make the point, and I'm very serious about this. I don't really feel like I'm that intelligent of a guy. I really don't. I studied, I read things that maybe people don't normally read, because I wanted an answer. I wanted an answer for why I'm here, what's going on, is there a God, et cetera, et cetera. But understanding mathematics this way, was simple to me. I had to learn it. There's no doubt. When you read my books, you'll have to do some math. That's the hard truth about it. But by doing this, it was like, it made me understand math, and it was so simple. It was really straightforward. It made sense. Where every time I learned math before, it was like a headache, and I couldn't get around it. It was awful, And I think most people have that experience with mathematics. This math, to me, isn't like that at all. Really, it shows the like I said, the magical nature of things. And so this is really what's compelled me to write these books and try to reintroduce math to people, to say, no, this is not the math that you learned in your fourth and fifth grade or your high school class or whatever. This is something that's much more, and it speaks on so many levels, and levels that you wouldn't think normally, and so it's just very important to me,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you write down at the entrance of your book, prepare to look at your world in a completely new way after they've read your book. And I think that's absolutely true, because once you allow yourself to be pulled into this kind of thinking, this kind of viewing, then you start to see connections where you just normally would not have seen anything at all. So you enter a totally new world. It's the same world we already live in, but you perceive it differently, and then you start to discover that there is much more coherence than you previously thought there was.
Yeah, that's what it's done for me, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me too. Where
I lived in a world, maybe 3-4 years ago, whatever, where it's like I still couldn't make sense of it. Now, things that I never thought I'd get an answer for completely make sense. I mean, I make the point that, like, when I was pursuing this, I didn't even know if any of this stuff was legitimate or was actually real. So pursuing this, it was just like, I don't even know if any of this stuff makes sense. And then when I actually got to it and looked at the cipher and looked at the mathematics and started getting into symbols, it was just like, there's this very, well, it's the world of God is really what it is. And that God is this, it's this intelligent matrix that creates the universe. And this is the idea of going in and having a Gnostic revelation. It's really going in and understanding that intelligent matrix that is God, and that it is intelligent, and that it is interconnected, and you can have an experience with it. And this is what these helio-Gnostics, these pagans were doing. This is what the original Christians were doing. This is what I believe the Hindus were doing. And when they found this, these sorts of ideas, whether it's astrotheology, numerology, symbolism, all of that, basically all of these religions are garments, that are put on top of this basic fundamental religious experience. And as far as I'm concerned, that's what these religions are actually doing. So if you understand this, and then you go into these the Dao Ching, the I Ching, the Holy Bible, the Quran, any of these things, this stuff is going to start to make a lot of sense. And what's even more important is that when you put yourself front and center to that mystery, when you put yourself front and center to the mystery, this is when it makes sense. This is when the Christ makes sense. This is when Buddha makes sense, because it's really talking about you. It's talking about you,
Yes, exactly. And that's why studying this is also called holy science. And I would like to mention that both you and I are teachers at the School of the Holy Science. You can find more on that on the website Holy Science, schoolofholyscience.org. And we also have both a webinar coming up, Marty. Mine is tomorrow, European time. It will be 4:00, but I think in your time zone it will be somewhere around 9 or I'm not sure 10 o'clock in the morning maybe. But yours is coming up Thursday if everything is okay. But for the people here in the Netherlands, that will be 2 a.m. on a Friday morning. So you have to stay up really late or wake up really early, depending on your schedule. But can you tell the listeners a little bit what you're going to do in that webinar? Because you have 2 hours time, I think.
Yeah, I'm basically, it's called Numbers and Letters. So basically the first thing I'm going to do is actually look at, basically just numbers. Basically what I'm going to do is just kind of walk up the number line, 0 through 19. And we're just going to look at, where pi is established in a number line, where we can get phi, what does 17 mean, that sort of thing. So that's going to be the first maybe half hour or whatever. And then I'm going to get into the cipher. And then kind of, break some of this stuff down. It kind of be a comprehensive lecture. And I hope to record it and put it on YouTube. So if you do miss it, you'll be able to get it on YouTube. So. Okay,
that would be great. And I've heard also from the people who work behind the background, so to say, of the School of the Holy Science, that you want to start also with a weekly kind of webinar. Is that correct, Marty, or was I misinformed?
No, I'd like to do it once a month.
Monthly, okay.
I'd like to and so and some of this information is going to be a repeat. It's in the books, and I have other videos out there, but this is kind of a comprehensive lecture. So, because I know a lot of people when they get to the videos, because they're subject oriented, so one's on Horus, one's on Hermes Trismegistus, one's on squaring the circle. This will be a comprehensive, so we can start from the beginning and just kind of walk through this material. And so I hope that by the end, you'll get this kind of comprehensive. It'll make sense, So that's what I'm hoping to do anyway. So.
Yeah, and the nice part of the webinar, I've done 3 so far, is that it's live, so people can participate and ask questions in the chat, and you can respond directly. So it's you can have a lot of interaction with everybody who's joining that webinar, and that makes it really fun to do. At least that's my experience.
I'm looking forward to it. So I'm looking forward to yours too. I'm definitely looking at joining. So.
Yeah, it's great to do. At least I think it's great to do. So people who want to join your webinar coming Tuesday, or if you're in Europe, Friday morning really early, go to the website, the School of the Holy Science pateo.org, and there you find the conference room. And if you click on it, then you see how you can log into the free environment where we show our slides and or even a video, and where you can participate.
Yeah, I definitely point people to that website too, because it's kind of a portal to direct to you and Santos and whatnot. I think you're doing great work. I love Santos's work, and there's a guy, Danny Wilton's on there too. He does some work with looking at basically the Orion Nebula. Pretty interesting stuff. So I definitely direct people there. So.
Yeah, the school is still growing because you're also part of the Pateo Academia. That's something I started on my website. Of course, Santos Bonacci is also a member there, but there are many others. But I'm really happy that the School of the Holy Science is now growing, and that there are more teachers coming and sharing our knowledge for free. Because as you said before, it's not our knowledge; it's the knowledge from humanity, or maybe even bigger, but at least from humanity. So we can only pass it on because it doesn't belong to us. We can just share it and let it grow and. Help people understand the bigger picture. Yeah,
it just gives people a different perspective, and I think we need it in this world right now. We really do, So, and I think it's a good perspective. Like I said, it's helped me find the divinity and sacredness of this world. So, I mean, what more are we looking for? So. Exactly.
Yeah, the time is nearly running out. I have one question. I should have asked that in the beginning, but I forgot about it. Did the Hurricane Sandy also came into your neighborhood, because you live also at the east side of the U.S.?
Actually, I don't. I was gonna contact you and tell you that. I actually live in Wisconsin. I live in Albany, Wisconsin. So I noticed you said New York. So I didn't get the brunt of that at all. Though Lake Michigan got huge waves that kind of crash and hit Milwaukee and that sort of thing. But I'm kind of far away from that too. So I didn't get hit by the storm at all. But.
Okay, then I got your town wrong. Okay, good. Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to tell you about that, but anyway.
No, that's okay. And the upcoming elections, is everybody? How big is that, or are you totally not interested in the outcome?
Yeah, I try to stay away from politics, at least talking about politics, especially these time of year, because there's so many attack ads and people are, they're just so amped up. And so I just try to take a step back and just, and focus on what I'm doing right now, So, but yeah, it's pretty crazy over here right now. I was just at the gym this morning and I saw about 20 attack ads within 10 minutes or something. So, yeah, it gets a little depressing, if you will. So,
yeah. And any idea who might win this, or you don't even care, Marty?
I'm guessing Obama will win. I'm guessing. So, but like I said, I don't know. So.
No, we'll see. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you running for president? You said, or something?
That was my adventure this summer. I joined also the politics for a short while, and I became the party leader of a new party. In the Netherlands, we have a lot of parties. In the US, there are only 2 or sometimes 3. But in the Netherlands, we have we had already 10, but in the election period there were 10 more. So it was really big. But I was trying to get as much chairs from the parliament for my own party, but unfortunately we didn't even got 1 chair, so it was not really a success, but it was very good experience for me.
Let me say something quick about American politics, the way you just said. We have this 2-party system. Understanding mathematics, there's this holy trinity, it's the 3. Really what this says is that, to me, if you only have 2 parties, you just have 2 points in a line. And so there's no room for discourse. There's no space. There's no plane. It's always left versus right. Adam versus Eve. And until we have more parties, I think our political system is going to be, and probably has been, overtaken. And I think this is that to the detriment of the people in the United States. Because basically we get the choice between 2 evils, if you will. And I think we need that 3rd party, because when you get 3 parties, you get that plane, you get that space, you get the place for discourse. And we don't have that right now in America. And that's unfortunate. So.
Yeah, I can agree on that. Okay. I'm very happy, Marty, that you were able to be my guest tonight. And I I have to say I'm a big admirer of your work because it makes so much sense and it's so, brought forward easily. Everybody can understand it. You don't need to be very intelligent or have studied long. That's all not necessary. All you need is an open mind and look with a clear view, and then you start to see remarkable connections. So that's fascinating. Thank you very much for your work and especially for sharing it the way you do it with a lot of videos and your books. And thanks again, Marty. All the listeners, thank you very much for listening. And my guest for next week is not yet known, but I will make it known very shortly after this. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.